I think as the project gets closer, you know, it's been 10 years. Up until yesterday, it was excitement, and now there's a little bit of nerves coming up, you know, like all of this, it feel like Christmas is coming. And then Sunday, after this is over at 7 p.m., that it's gonna be like you opened all your Christmas presents, and what's next? The training's been pretty good, except yesterday we missed out. Yesterday was a wash for us. We had a little bit of engine problems with the Silver plane, so we spent the day like sorting that out and test flying it. So that steps into your psyche. You know, you missed out on a few training jumps that you had planned on doing. So up until yesterday, the training was going great, and the training now needs to build. We have to make up for that this afternoon and hopefully get a few jumps in. The biggest hurdle in this project was how to slow a 2,000-pound object down to the speed of a skydiver. A skydive speed is about 130, 140 miles an hour, and we need to slow this 2,000-pound plane down. So coming up with the size of this air brake and making sure this air brake slowed the plane down, but also didn't make it so unstable. So making that plane fall straight down or come straight down, you know, when that speed brake is down and the engine is off, it basically becomes an object just free falling at the ground until you get there. So getting the plane under control has been the hardest part of this. I wasn't. I had fully engaged the idea originally of doing this with a drogue behind it, like I'd seen a version when I was a kid. That was my plan. And then Kevin Coleman introduced me to Paulo at one of the air races, and I said, hey, this is my project, and I really love to do it, but I don't want to do it with a drogue chute. I want to do it, use some technology and come up with it. So meeting Paulo was probably the technology I was waiting for this whole time. Yeah, I think all of the projects I've done up to this point, I mean, it started with Red Bull Stratos. I learned on Red Bull Stratos that I had a little bit of an engineering mind and that I could lead a team of people to do something that was pretty cool. I was in charge of keeping him safe on the way down. So this project and then jumping without a parachute, I learned how to run a flight test program. And you know, we're not doing a spectacle here. This is a true flight test program. At the end, we get to test all of our theories on live TV on the 24th. I'm pretty excited. From the very first test jump, I jumped out. Andy was in the plane and I was flying next to it, and the plane just flew away. From all of our images, it looked to us like the plane was going straight down, but we didn't know until we got out and we were in free fall next to it. So the plane was tracking away from me. I was in a full track and there's no chance I could have caught it. So from that first jump to where we are today is pretty amazing that now we have these planes tracking straight down where we easily have room plus or minus. That said, when these planes are coming down, they're a living, breathing thing. They're not perfectly stationary. So the planes are ebbing and flowing on the way down. It makes it a little more difficult. But that first jump, I didn't know that this was going to be possible. It's interesting on the timing perspective. You know, Andy and I have a lot of skydives jumping from, 12,000 feet. So we have a mental clock going off in our head. But we usually open our parachute a little bit lower than we're going to be trying to make sure that we get into these aircraft. But we work with students and are teaching someone to jump. We have about the same amount of time. So we have this mental clock that, I mean, Andy's got 27,000 jumps. I have 20,000 jumps of this mental clock going on, verifying it off an altimeter on our wrist. We also have an audible altimeter in our ear that we set to beep at certain altitudes on the way down. And so that's just verifying what we know is going on in our head. You feel it after you've been out in free fall for 30 seconds. You just feel that pressure and you got to giddy up and hurry up to get over there. So it's a pretty exciting moment and it's difficult. It's probably the most difficult part of it is from the wingtip into the fuselage. Andy was flying the plane and I was coming up trying to get into it, and you grab a hold and you walk in, so you have 140 miles an hour of wind holding you up, basically the same as the airplane. But as soon as you get behind the door and you get inside, part of your body gets inside, gravity takes over and you actually fall forward against the dashboard. So the first time was pretty exciting. We've only done a few times of that stage of it. And as we reach into the plane, you kind of stumble and fall against the floor. And the floor is now the front of the plane. So we had to build a false floor on the dashboard for us to have somewhere to rest as we get into the airplane. My family is super supportive. I don't feel the pressure from my family at all. They're here to support me. I go into this with my eyes wide open. I mean, my wife and son, I put them through about as much as I'm willing to do on the no parachute jump. So they're very excited for this one. I'll be wearing a parachute. The outside pressure from, you know, a live TV show and the whole world watching you. And the biggest thing about that is to be able to have a filter and to know that on the day, if it's not safe, to call this off right before you did it would be a lot of pressure, and that would probably be the hardest thing I would have to do, because you know the world's watching, so you have that pressure to do it, and so you have to filter all that out and just do it the way you planned and the safest way possible. I think what's interesting for me with my son is that exactly the main reason that I do these things is Logan's dyslexic, has a hard time with the learning stuff a little bit, but he's got such this crazy engineering mind when we're doing stuff. He's so ahead of his scale for physically, you know, doing things, and it's really important for him to see that it's not just this skydive thing. It's not that you have to learn, you have to study, and you have to focus on something. So you find something that encourages you, that's exciting to you, and it makes you learn parts. Like, I had no idea about all the engineering that would have to go into something like this, and hanging out with Paulo and all of that. It's hopefully showing my son that, yeah, he knows Dad hates doing the book work and all that stuff, but that has to happen. It's part of the process, and I'm trying to hopefully show him that hard work pays off.